Good evening. Today is December 2nd, 2013. This is a meeting of the Revere City Council's Ways and Means Committee. We have one item on the agenda this evening. It is a supplemental budget request for fiscal year 14. I know we have Director of Finance, George Anzoni, in the audience. I will open the floor up to Mr. Anzoni and then open it up to committee members. We have from the committee here tonight, Councilor Giannino, Councilor Guanasso, Councilor Haas. We also have Council President Ira Novoselsky, Councilor Correggio, and Councilor Patch. Mr. Anzoni.
We do this. Okay, sorry. Thank you. There is a need to ask for a supplemental budget appropriations. One of the reasons, there are three reasons actually. One is the Revere School Department budget is required to be increased by an amount of $288,885. And the reason for this appropriation is because the way the Chapter 70 money came in, it did not cover the net school spending figure that was published for the City of Revere by the Department of Education. So the difference of that was $288,885. And there's I have included not only the correspondence from Superintendent Paul Dakin, but also the vote of the school committee to the communication. The Office of Planning and Community Development has requested a supplemental appropriation in order to hire a project engineer. We have our project engineer for many years, Mr. John Cherian, who is retiring. Not only when he retires, what happens is that there's the buyback for his sick leave and all the sick leave and unused vacation and on and on, and that there'll be a shortfall in the amount that is in the account. What they're looking to do is hire a project engineer, and the account that it should go into is a community development project director account, and the total amount asked for is $57,500. The last appropriation that is required is an amount that the mayor is asking to have sent to the Revere contract negotiation account. This account was set aside by the administration so that when the union contracts were settled, as you know, the contracts when this administration came in, not to reiterate, but just to bring a little history, all of them were had expired. The fire contract actually had expired for 2 years. So what we're asking, what the mayor is asking, is that an amount be put into that account, because we're waiting we went before the Joint Labor Management Commission, and we're waiting for the firefighters union, waiting for that decision to come down. So to make certain that we don't get hit with this all in 1 year, we do want to place some money into that account and give us some reserves when and if depending on how the decision comes down from the Joint Labor Management Commission. Okay?
Thank you, George. Councilor Haas.
Thank you. On the first issue, which the school department, what's the reason there? We have not met net school spending?
Right. We haven't met net school spending. The Chapter 70 monies, as they came in, didn't allow us to meet the chapter school spending. When they took the difference amount would equal the amount that was being requested tonight.
But why wouldn't that have been determined last year when we were compiling the budget?
No, that didn't come out until after the cherry sheet came out, and which was after the setting of the budget. And actually, the communication came to the administration back in September, and knowing that there may be other appropriations coming due, that the administration wanted to make certain that there was one request for supplemental budget.
And we do meet, if this is passed tonight, we do meet net school spending.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
As far as the monies, where were all these monies coming from?
the monies from all the monies we're asking for.
Right.
The money has been applied to the, all the additional monies that we're asking have been applied to the appropriations, and they're coming out of appropriations. They're not being transferred from one account to another. They're actual new appropriations that we're asking for.
Okay, so this will be reflective of the current tax rate?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Heads. Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. George, in fact, what happens if the school department said, well, we need 600,000 for, because we haven't reached the goal of net school spending? Would we have to,
We would have to fund it.
how do we have control over the expenditure of this money? I know it's very easy to say we have to meet net school spending, but when does net school spending stop? I mean,
Well-
it seems like we have, the school department has carte blanche, spend as much as you want, and then we come up here for these transfers, and we're saying net school spending has to be met. Okay, what about the other departments that operate out of this community budget that we have? They have a guideline, X number of dollars, that's what's been appropriated for them. When do we have accountability from the school department that, you know, net school spending is getting crazy now?
Well, it's all part of the Education Reform Bill, which was a law that was passed in 1994, and that requires the cities and towns to meet their net school spending. If not, the city doesn't receive all of their grants from the Department of Education they need. So it's a requirement under that law that we meet net school spending. Does the city council, the city have any say in it? We really don't. It's because the law says that this is what you must do and this is what you have to meet in net school spending. And it's just a requirement of that law that was passed in 1994. And ever since, the city has met the net school spending.
How does the law determine what the budget is? If we have to live by an X number of dollar law, how do we determine that's what we have to spend?
Well, as far as I know, and I'm not an expert on net school spending, as far as the formula is concerned, it's probably something that the school department will probably have a much better idea, but I do know there is a formula set out, and it's based on number of students and income and so on and so forth, but there's much more into that formula. And that's how they decide what the net school spending should be for the city, and every city and town in Massachusetts.
They do it the same way.
They do it the same way.
It seems to me like you're given a blank check to the school department to do as you wish, and then they come up with this formula that we have to meet that, and then through your own words, come before the council, and we have to do it because that's the law.
That's the law, we have to meet net school spending, that's correct.
But what I'm thinking is, every dollar we spend on the school side, which is a very positive vein when it reaches a certain number, don't get me wrong, takes away from the city side. Means we have to take from the DPW, we have to take from every other department
Correct.
to pay the school. And I think at some point, reality has to take its course here, and we have to say, hey, how much is enough for this net school spending? And how do we come up with I think what I would like to see in this upcoming year when we do budgetary preparation in terms of the appointment subcommittee, I think we got to meet not only when the school department comes forward with a budget,
Okay.
I think they should meet with us pre-determination, because every year that I've been witnessing these past several years, they come up, if they do come up, here's what you have to, this is net school spending, this is what our budget is.
Right.
I think we should have some negotiation in that, because it's getting to the point where, wow, I mean, we got to do something about it, because it's reaching proportions, it's greater than 75%, which I think is unreasonable to begin with. So I think something's got to be done, because we're cutting ourselves short on the other departments, you know. And
Well,
I don't know what the answer is right now, because it's such a broad.
I don't think there's a short answer to that, and I don't think there's really a long answer to that. I don't know if there is an answer to what you're saying, because again, it's what the law requires, and I understand what the point you're making, and it's just that yes, the city department, if we have to expend more money to the school department, under 2.5, we only have a levy limit that we have to reach. Once we reach that levy limit, and it's how we disperse the dollars underneath that levy limit. So there's only a limited amount of monies that we can disperse.
But we're stuck with the 2.5 cap. That's
Right.
by law.
By
Everything's
law,
by law,
it's
by the
okay.
way.
Right.
And in terms of that, if we keep taking and giving to the school department, we're reducing our budgets for the other departments, and I don't think that that's sharing the revenue very well. I just think that, and I understand the very precious commodity, our school children, and everyone in the world can play on that.
Right.
But we have a lot of older people here that are paying the bill. And these people are strapped with a fixed income, and at some point in time, it has to come to reality is how much can we afford for our school system? I mean, we've been very generous these past several years by building 5 new schools. We're doing wonderful things for our school children. We're putting equipment in these schools that are second to none. But at some point, we have to say, okay, now let's look at the DPW. They have a dilapidated building, it needs to be fixed. We have equipment that we keep constantly putting good money after bad to repair. Why? Because we don't have the money. But they can't say net DPW spending as the school department does. I mean, because of the law. This law, I want to challenge the law and say, okay, when do you stop? If they came to us and said 70% of your budget has to be for the school department, that makes more sense. At least we know what we're doing. But to keep giving and giving and giving, I think it's got to stop, Mr. Chairman. Something's got to happen in terms of reality here. Thank you for the time and the leeway.
Thank you, Councilor Granasso. Any other, Council President Novoselsky? Councilor Patch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In all fairness to Dr. Dakin, though, he could have exceeded to the limit at the after we did the budget. Is that correct? Is this money like this sum of money, this total amount
Right.
that we have to give the school department? He hasn't reached that total amount. Is that correct?
As far as the budget's concerned,
Well, it's 200 and what, 85,000?
88,000.
I mean, this is towards the total limit that the school, that we have to give the school?
Right. And he hasn't reached that appropriation as yet until the
Right.
council acts. If it takes a positive vote, then the school department does not reach that amount.
Okay, now, the other question I have is this a federal mandate or a state?
State,
State?
education reform bill is a state law.
So it's a state law?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Patch. Councilor Correggio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Rigo. George, out of that 200,000, how much is involved with grant money?
None?
None. And how about mandated programs? That's
None.
none?
He has the right to distribute that the way the school department sees fit. The school department has the right to distribute that as they see fit into their budget. I do want to correct myself. I believe the education reform bill was passed in 1996, not 1994.
Right.
So,
So what is the basic, I don't have the budget, but what is the basic school department budget for this year?
well, the budget is, I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't have my budget in front of me, but, on my budget documents, but total amount of the budget is, I just can't give you the figure off the top of my head.
Right.
I don't have it in front of me. But
All right.
this will be added to that amount. Do you have that?
All right,
It's around $76
Thank you,
million.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
$76 million. Councilor Correggio, it's, the school budget is around $76 million.
$76,834,159.
So my question is how much
Percentage-wise?
grant money, I mean, are we getting our fair share of grant money, or has it decreased? Has it increased over the past
As
two?
far as the grant money, I think the school department has been very active as far as receiving grant money for their programs. I don't think it has decreased, because they've been very active and very successful in doing that.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Correggio. Councilor Janino.
Thank you. I think one of the things that the city of Revere is known for is our amazing school system, and I think that any money that we're willing to put towards that is money well spent. And, you know, they're already running a very bare bones project. You're cutting programs, and we want our students to have the best of everything. We want them to have the best programs, the best extracurricular activities, the best sports programs, the best classroom experience. So I support this, and I think that it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Janino. Council President Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Anzoni, what is the 2000 series in the school
I
department
believe
budget?
it's salary series.
So this is all for salaries?
Oh, certainly, I think it's the salary series. I don't have the chart in front of me. I usually work off the chart when I look at it.
Because this is the first time that I know of that they've come in for a supplemental budget since I've been around, because they've always had overflow money that they can carry over from fiscal year to fiscal year in anticipation of any bills that they may have.
Okay.
And how come they can't use that money that they had the year before, in which we have no clue how much they're carrying over? See, we can't carry over, but they can, or we can carry over for a couple months, if I'm correct.
Well, we can carry over if there's a outstanding purchase order against that amount.
Right.
They can carry over for the same reason if there's an outstanding purchase order for the same amount. That's the accounting rules.
$1 million?
They can do that if they have that many. It depends, because what happens is that they may order supplies in June, and they cut a PO for it then, and then the supplies may not come in until August, September, or further on, and they already have the outstanding PO for that. So that has to be incumbent, and that causes it to be incumbent.
Well, I honestly don't buy that, because you know, I worked in the government for 30 years, and if I had an open PO, that doesn't mean I had things ordered. That means I could potentially order things if I needed them. So it doesn't, you know, I could have POs out, you know, carried over in a matter of $20,000, but I don't have anything specific. It's all of a sudden, oh, I got $20,000 put away. I can, you know, order something that I may need in the future. But
Yeah, but what we do as far as the city's books are concerned, what we do on the city side is we close out everything that doesn't have a PO attached to it, so there's no carryover. The school department has POs that are outstanding that covers that amount, because at the end of the day, it's all audited by the outside auditors of Powers and Sullivan, and before that it was Melanson and Heath. And it's a large amount of carryovers, but that's the reason for the carryovers. And the report coming back, in your report, you'll see that there's outstanding purchase orders against those.
$1 million is a lot of money
It's a
to
lot of
carry
money.
over. I don't care who you are.
I know it's a lot of money, but
You
at
know,
the same
you
time,
know,
they have POs, they don't spend it in a period of time. That's
I
the
would have
problem.
a hard time
Yeah.
looking at that justification myself. But, you know, this is like I said, this is the first time the future monies has come to us. And if this is all salaries, you know, we look at all the salaries the school department's getting, and not only, they have a very high administrative rate, may I say, as far as personnel. And, you know, I give everybody credit for getting a job.
Here's
But,
the-
you know,
yeah.
we have to put up $288,000 to pay for other people's salaries.
So I tend to think of this salary, because it says in Dr. Diggins' letter, the 2000 series instructional expenditures in 2013 to 14 year in the amount of $288,885 when he's asking.
It's almost $289,000. Well, you know, for a $76 million budget, you know, I agree with Councilor Guanasso, you know. You know, I'm sorry ed reform went through after things went, you know, started showing, but it'd be very difficult to change it through the legislature, because everybody has the same vote. But, you know, if I had my druther, I would never vote for this unless I knew exactly what it was going for. So, but, you know, the law is the law, but I had to express myself, and, let it known. I know you're only the messenger, but, I just have a problem putting up another $288,000 to a budget which I never saw when budget time came around. So I have a problem with that, not us not getting the proper budget information when the budget meetings are being held and they're holding back from us seeing it. He may have sent it through to certain people, but never to the council through an official memo. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Haas.
Thank you. Just as a point of information, if we don't give the school department the net school spending, it's reduced by the next year on the cherry sheet.
Correct.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. George, I just have a couple of questions. On the school spending, I understand that we have to spend this money, and I understand that due to ed reform, we have certain requirements that we need to meet. And one thing I would like to see, and maybe we can send a communication to the superintendent asking for a breakdown of exactly where the $289,000 is going as far as salaries. I think he should be able to provide that to the council. On the community development, $57,000. I just looked at the communication that you got from Frank Stringy, and it says that there's a need for an additional $32,000. So is the 57, 32 plus, I assume 25?
Right.
Or is that correct?
Yes, there's
Okay.
the 32 and the
Okay.
25.
And then on the 412,000, is this going to be going towards the police contract that we had just approved, or is this helping with the fire contract that we have coming down the pike?
It has to do mainly with the fire department contract on another.
Okay, and this isn't going to cover it?
Is it going to cover it? I don't know what the JLMC award's going to be.
Right. Okay.
However, that amount of $412,369, I don't have any communication to come up here, but it hasn't. But the amount that we are looking for, the administration is looking for, is a lesser amount. We went before the Bureau of Accounts and had our recap sheet reviewed and our financial statements reviewed, and that the amount we'd like to have put in that account now, in order to meet our amount of $337,268. So we're reducing that amount. What happens is that there was an amount of monies that were put into the put onto the financial statements for anticipation of FEMA for FEMA reimbursement. The reimbursement, because of the government shutdown, did not meet the deadline that's set by the DOR account. So what they did is now they're asking us to raise that in this year's recap sheet. However, in next year's recap sheet, we'll be able to get credit for it. So that amount was some $74,000, and that's something, and that would reduce the amount that would be available to transfer into the account for the amount. So the new amount would be the $337,268.
Okay. And I know Councilor has touched on this, but the total amount, so we're looking at supplemental requests of about $750,000. This is not going to hit, as Councilor has mentioned, the taxpayer, or this money is coming from, I'm assuming, revenue that's probably exceeded expectations, or some free cash that we have, or would that be accurate?
Well, it's coming from as you know, when you do the tax rate, you fill out a tax recap sheet. In there's a number of variables that you use, one of them being the revenues that are becoming in the local receipts. The amount of the transfer is, that we're asking for tonight, or the further appropriation, is $683,653, okay? That's the exact amount that we're asking to be appropriated tonight.
That's coming, and so that money is coming from, more money that we've gotten in local receipts.
Coming money we've got in local receipts, and also monies that we have when we go to our levy. So when we go to our levy, we have that amount, that difference.
Yep.
That difference is the amount that we're using.
Okay. And finally, is there any expectation from you or from your office that we'll be having any more supplemental budget requests, or do you see anything else coming down the line that might be, are there overtime accounts that are kind of running out, or are there any other issues that could come up?
Well, I don't know, there won't be any more supplemental budget requests, because once this is passed, the city is going to set its tax rate. So after the tax rate's set, there's no more supplemental budgets. So that's why we're looking for a passage of this tonight, so that we can tomorrow submit our our tax rate to the DOR. Further on, I believe in tonight's meeting, you also have the minimum residential factor coming up, and that would also be part of the the tax rate. But that's why we're doing it now.
Mr. Chairman.
Council President Novoselsky.
Thank you. We were talking about the residential factor also. Does this money have to be approved before we approve the residential factor?
Yes.
So we have to take that into consideration if we're going to pass. And we want to be able to hopefully pass the residential factor as soon as possible, because we're coming up to the end of the calendar year. So thank you.
Councilor Hess.
George, I just want to make sure that people understand, this will be in the tax rate,
That'll be in the tax rate.
right? Okay. Again, this has to be approved prior to the later discussion of the minimum factor, right? Next time we'll have any changes within the budget will be in June.
Any changes in the budget? Or
Appropriations.
any further appropriations will be for next year.
In June.
In June.
Correct? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hess. Councilor Gunasso.
I'm concerned, Mr. Chairman. What are we saying here? We're saying that we have to pass this tonight. We get a public hearing is number 2 in reference to the residential factor. If that has to be, the contents of this request now has to be approved first. So what's the order of business? We take this up right away as soon as the meeting opens and say and ask for the minutes of the zoning of this subcommittee.
Councilor Gunasso, I would defer to Council President Novoselsky, but my thought is we could approve this, take this out of order, approve this first, and then have the public hearing after that.
That's exactly what I'm asking. I'm saying get the Ways and Means Subcommittee report prior to the public hearing, and this way here we can take a vote on it, and then we'll be okay after suspension of rules.
You guys have too many mics on.
Mr. Chairman, what would happen is we could still have the public hearing for the residential factor. And then before we vote on that, we bring up the subcommittee report and then add the two together, and then we vote on the total package.
Whatever way makes you happy, Mr. President, because it just, what it has to be, though, it has to be prior to the
vote. That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Thank you.
And with that, I will entertain a motion to report this out favorably to the full council. All in favor, all opposed? And with that, we will close this evening's Ways and Means Subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.